The sun rose quietly over Oboma, casting long shadows on red dust roads and rusted zinc roofs. Birds sang in the mango trees. Goats bleated in the distance. But in the small mud-brick house at the end of Uqui Street, Ngozi's heart was breaking. She sat still on the wooden bench beside the cooking fire, her hands stained with peeled cassava, her face damp with silent tears. She didn't cry out loud. Oboma girls were taught to be strong. But inside her, something was shattering. "I can't marry you," Chuka had said, just minutes ago, standing tall in his pressed jeans and polished shoes like he was too big for the village. "You're too local, Ngozi. My friends in the city. What will they say if they see me with you?" She remembered every word, every syllable, burned into her bones. Too local. As if being raised by a fish seller and a retired hunter was something to be ashamed of. As if walking barefoot to school, selling akara after church, or speaking her native tongue with pride made her less of a woman. Chuka, the boy she had loved since they were teenagers, the one who promised to build a future with her, had tossed her aside like market leftovers. And what hurt most wasn't just the words. It was the way he looked at her, like she was invisible now, like her dreams didn't matter. Ngozi sat there for a long time after he left. The firewood crackled, smoke rising into the dawn light. Her mother's voice echoed faintly from inside the house, calling her to bring water. But Ngozi didn't move. Somewhere deep in her chest, beyond the pain and humiliation, something stirred. A whisper, a question. What if he's wrong? That same evening, she walked down to the community center where the church was holding a program for young girls. She Rises. She had seen the flyers before but never paid attention. This time, she walked straight inside, her wrapper still smelling of palm oil, her slippers dusty. She sat in the back row quietly. On stage stood a tall woman in Ankara heels and box braids. Her voice carried fire. "It doesn't matter where you come from. It's where you're going that matters." Ngozi sat up. For the first time in hours, her eyes held a spark. That night she didn't cry. She made a vow instead. Chuka had called her local like it was a curse. One day he would see her name on a billboard, and he would whisper it, with regret. The next morning, Ngozi made a decision that would change her life. But it would start with something small, something no one in the village expected. The next morning, Ngozi woke before the sun. She tied her wrapper tight, fetched water from the community well, swept the compound, and lit the fire for her mother. Everything looked the same, but she was not the same. At breakfast, her mother noticed. "Ngozi," she asked, "why you quiet this morning?" Ngozi just smiled, soft but steady. "I'm going back to that program." Her mother blinked. "Which one?" "The She Rises program at the community hall," she said, dipping her bread into tea. "They said there's a session on confidence and communication today. I want to go." Her mother's lips parted, surprised. "Since when did you start?" Ngozi stood before she could finish. "Mama, I need to try." And that was it. She didn't know exactly what she was chasing, but deep inside, she knew she couldn't remain the girl sitting by the fire, crying over a boy who measured her worth in city English and polished shoes. At the program, things moved fast. She found herself writing goals on paper, practicing posture, learning how to speak clearly without fear. First, she was shy. Her village accent felt too thick, her voice too soft. But one of the mentors, a woman named Auntie Ife, pulled her aside after class. "You have presence," Auntie Ife said, looking her up and down. "But you don't even know it yet." Ngozi looked down. "I'm not like the other girls. I don't know fashion or makeup. I've never even left Imo State." Auntie Ife smiled. "Neither had I, until someone gave me a chance." From that moment, things began to shift. Weeks passed. Ngozi became a regular at every session. She started helping organize chairs, register names, take notes for facilitators. Her confidence grew. Her laughter returned. Her mind began to open. One day, Auntie Ife pulled her aside again. "Ngozi, have you ever considered modeling?" Ngozi's eyes widened. "Me? Model? Yes, you?" Auntie Ife said firmly. Not just runway, pageantry, confidence, poise. I have a friend in Lagos who trains girls. She runs a scholarship program for rural talent. I want to recommend you. Ngozi felt her heart pound. But I don't have money. I don't even have a passport photo. We'll take care of that, she said. Just say yes. That night, Ngozi couldn't sleep. She stared at the moon through the thatched window of her room, her mind racing. Lagos? Training? Modeling? She remembered how Chuka used to laugh when she said she wanted to be more than just a village wife. How he once told her, Ngozi, your dreams are bigger than your level. But what if he was wrong? What if her dreams were the exact size they were meant to be? At dawn, she packed her small bag, 1 wrapper, 2 tops, a comb, her Bible, and when her mother asked where she was going, she said simply, to chase the thing that lives inside me. But Lagos was not Oboma, and the city would test Ngozi in ways she never imagined. Lagos hit her like a slap of wind and exhaust fumes. The noise, the crowds, the honking danfos, the rush of bodies moving in every direction. It was nothing like Oboma. Everything was faster, louder, shinier. Even the air smelled different. Ngozi stood at the park in Ojalegba, clutching her small bag and trying not to panic. She had never been this far from home before. Auntie Ife's contact had sent a driver, a short, quiet man named Jide. He held a cardboard sign that read *Ngozi O. This way, madam, he said. Madam. She wasn't used to that. The drive took her through parts of Lagos she had only heard about: Ikoyi, Victoria Island, Lekki. Skyscrapers towered into the sky. Women walked confidently in heels and designer bags. Men in suits talked into phones with foreign accents. This wasn't just a city. It was a different universe. They stopped outside a cream-colored compound with gold gates. A plaque read, *La Belle Academy for Women, Poise, Power, Presence. Inside, the reception smelled of vanilla and fresh paint. Everything gleamed: mirrors, marble floors, the curve of the staircase. Ngozi felt small, country small. But then she saw her name on the register, and a badge that read Miss Ngozi O. Scholarship student. She took a deep breath. The days that followed were like a whirlwind. Etiquette lessons, public speaking, fitness training, English diction. Even walking, yes, walking was taught with military precision. First, she struggled. She didn't know how to hold cutlery. She walked too fast. Her makeup skills were laughable. Some of the girls whispered behind her back, calling her bush girl or scholarship pity pick. But she kept showing up. Every morning, before the sun rose, she practiced her speech. In the evenings, she walked up and down the courtyard with a book balanced on her head. At night, she whispered her affirmations until she believed them. I am more than where I come from. I belong here. I am becoming. Then one afternoon, the academy director, Madam Lady, called her into her office. I've been watching you, she said, her voice clipped but not unkind. You came in here like a mouse, but you're becoming a lion. Ngozi blinked. There's a regional pageant in 2 months. Miss Southeastern Nigeria. We're sending you. Ngozi nearly dropped her file. Me? Yes, and I don't want to hear, but prepare. The room spun. Later that night, she called her mother from the academy phone. Mama, she whispered, they're sending me for a real competition. A real one. Her mother gasped. Ngozi, God is doing something. Yes, God was doing something. But so was she. She looked in the mirror that night and barely recognized the woman staring back. Taller, sharper, fiercer. But behind the reflection, the voice of Chuka still echoed in her memory. You're too local. She smiled. Let him say it. But while Ngozi was rising, news of her transformation was making its way back home, and Chuka was about to find out. It started with a whisper in Mama Ajima's stall. Did you hear? That Ngozi girl from Ukwi Street, she's now in Lagos. They say she wears heels and speaks like a lawyer. Then it moved to the tailor's shop. They said she's in some big woman's school. Oh. Something about beauty competition. And by evening, it had reached the compound where Chuka now lived with his uncle jobless, restless, and still waiting for the right opportunity in life. He scoffed when he heard it. Ngozi? Lagos? Please. He laughed too loudly. That girl doesn't even know how to pose for camera. Maybe she's selling Akara on the island. But that night, alone in his room with a cracked phone screen, Chuka typed her name into Facebook. He stared at the search bar for a moment, then typed again, slower this time, Ngozi Obesai. And there it was. Her photo, professional headshot, soft makeup, Ankara crown. Her eyes glowed with confidence he didn't recognize. Asterisk Miss Southeastern Nigeria finalist. His stomach dropped. He clicked again. Another photo. Her in a sleeveless gown, standing in front of a podium, receiving a certificate. She wasn't just attending events. She was the event. Chuka blinked, lips dry. He remembered how she used to run errands for his mother. How she once cried when he forgot her birthday. How he told his friends, "I'm just helping her manage expectations." Now she was the one expectations were built around. Back in Lagos, Ngozi was moving faster than she could keep track. The regional pageant came and went like a storm. She didn't win first place, but she made it to the top 5. And that was enough. Enough to qualify for the national stage. Asterisk Miss Africa Nigeria. Her mentors were stunned. Madam Lady called her into the office again, this time with a contract. "We have sponsors. You'll need to travel. South Africa, then Kenya. We'll handle your visa." Ngozi stared at the papers. Once, she couldn't even afford a passport photo. Now she needed a passport. And yet, something inside her still carried the ache of the village. The sting of Chuka's words. The shame of how small she once felt. But that pain, it had turned into fuel. Every insult had become a building block. Every dismissal had become a stepping stone. Still, when she stepped out of the office, shaking with disbelief, she didn't scream or cry. She simply called her mother. "Mama," she said breathlessly. "They're flying me out of the country." Her mother was quiet for a long time before whispering, "Ngozi, you are becoming what I used to pray for in secret." Ngozi smiled, tears running silently down her cheeks. But far away, in a small village filled with whispers and dusty regrets, someone else was saying her name now, too. Chuka. As Ngozi boards her first international flight, a storm brews at home because Chuka isn't just watching anymore. He's planning something. The airport lights blinked like stars. Ngozi stepped out of the terminal in Johannesburg, heels clicking softly against the tiled floor, breath fogging the glass doors. She had never seen so many lights, so much movement, so many cameras. This wasn't a dream anymore. It was real. Miss Africa Nigeria finalists had arrived for their continental boot camp. Girls from across the continent, Senegal, Ghana, Rwanda, Egypt, all tall, stunning, confident. Some spoke French. Others carried luxury handbags. But Ngozi, she carried fire. She may not have had the accent or the luggage, but she had something else, something the judges noticed in the first hour. Presence. She spoke softly, but people listened. She smiled with humility, but her walk said, "I know who I am." Each day brought new challenges. Cultural showcase, debate sessions, catwalk rehearsals, media interviews, and slowly, silently, Ngozi began to rise. Judges nodded. Mentors whispered. Even the South African press picked up her name. But just as she stepped into the brightest light of her life, a message arrived sent from a familiar number. "Hi, it's Chuka." She stared at the screen like it was a ghost. A second message followed. "I've been seeing you everywhere. I'm proud of you. Can we talk?" Ngozi closed her phone slowly. She said nothing, but something inside her shifted. Not pain, not anger, just clarity. A few days later, the finalists gathered in a private hall for a live televised Q/and a session. Cameras rolled. The moderator smiled. "Ngozi Obesai," he called. "Nigeria." The village girl turned rising star. "If you win this title, what will it mean to you?" Ngozi stood. Silence. Then she spoke, her voice calm and measured. It will mean the voices of girls like me who were once laughed at for being too local can now be heard across nations. The audience froze. Even the host paused. But more importantly, she added, it means we don't need to change who we are to be enough. The room erupted in applause. The next morning, her quote was everywhere: Instagram, TV, Twitter. Too local was trending. Back in Nigeria, Chuka sat in a cybercafe, staring at the screen. His friend nudged him. Isn't that the Ngozi you dumped? Chuka didn't respond. His jaw tightened. He closed the screen and picked up his phone. 2 days later, Ngozi's phone buzzed again. Video message from Chuka. She hesitated, then pressed play. His face appeared clean-shaven, voice soft. Ngozi, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I see you now. All of you. If you'll forgive me, I'm ready to do anything to earn a second chance. She paused the video halfway, not out of anger, but because she was laughing. Not loud, not cruel. Just softly, like someone who had finally woken up from a bad dream. The Miss Africa crown was just days away, but a surprise guest at the final event would force Ngozi to make a choice that would echo far beyond the stage. The night of the Miss Africa Grand Finale arrived like thunder. Held at the Cape Town International Convention Center, the venue glittered with chandeliers, gold carpets, and velvet seats. Celebrities, diplomats, CEOs, and kings' wives lined the front row. The entire continent was watching. Backstage, Ngozi stood in front of the mirror. Her dress shimmered like morning dew on cassava leaves, soft gold with green accents, a nod to her roots. Her makeup was flawless, but her heart, it was steady. She wasn't the girl who arrived in Lagos with just one rapper and a dream. She wasn't the girl who cried into her mother's lap after being called too local. She was the woman who survived all of it and became herself. Then someone tapped her shoulder. 5 minutes to stage, the coordinator said. Ngozi nodded, then took one final breath before stepping into the wings. The lights dimmed. The announcer's voice boomed. And now, ladies and gentlemen, your top 3 finalists for Miss Africa. As she stepped onto the stage, the crowd roared. Cameras flashed. Banners waved. Beside her stood Miss Morocco and Miss Ghana, tall, poised, dazzling. But Ngozi didn't feel small this time. She felt ready. The final question came. If you could say one thing to the girl you were 5 years ago, what would it be? Ngozi stepped forward, her voice steady, clear. I'd say, never apologize for where you come from. Your dust-covered feet, your local accent, your cheap clothes, they are not your shame. They are your story. The room went quiet. Then applause, thunderous, endless applause. Moments later, the crown was in the host's hands. Cameras zoomed in. Breath was held. And the winner of Miss Africa 2025 is a beat. Ngozi Obesai, Nigeria. Screams erupted. Confetti rained. Her knees buckled as the crown touched her head. She wept not because she needed the title to be someone, but because the girl who once sat in silence had finally found her voice. As she waved to the crowd, her eyes caught something or someone just beyond the stage. Chuka. He was standing by the VIP section, awkward in his oversized suit. He looked older, smaller, like someone who had aged without evolving. He smiled, hopeful. She didn't smile back. She turned. A journalist ran up. Miss Africa, what's next for you? Ngozi looked out at the sea of cameras and said, home. I'm building a leadership academy for rural girls. No one should ever have to beg to be seen. Later that month, she returned to Oboma not in silence, not in shame but in a convoy. The town came out with drums. Women ululated. Children ran after the black SUV screaming, Queen Ngozi! Queen Ngozi! Even her mother wept in disbelief. Chuka was there, too, standing in the crowd, holding a flower he never got the chance to give her. She walked past him, not with revenge, but with peace, because the greatest crown isn't gold. It's dignity. Final words. Not every girl is born with a silver spoon, but every girl deserves a voice. Ngozi found hers and made it loud enough for the whole world to hear. If you enjoyed the story, Please like and subscribe and don't forget to turn on the notification bell. Thank you. We hope to see you in our next video.